thank you all for your presentation. So we have been doing all of the talking so far, and now it is your turn. I'd like to turn it over to you to ask us questions. If you do have a question, please wave or stand up and either bellow out the question. It's probably a small enough room that we don't need a mic, but if you'd like a mic, you're welcome to ask for one. And we would love to take your questions. And if you don't have any, I will ask you questions. So I'm just warning you now. Feel free to stand up if you just have a question. Philip, I know you had a question. Did you want to ask it? Do the gentle lobs first. It's still quite early in the morning.
First of all, I think the organization is a wonderful organization. I think the population seems to be questioning the regulatory environment in order to getting projects through and all that kind of stuff. So you haven't really talked about your role in ensuring social license, and that's an important criteria today to get projects through. So more, I don't know what you're doing about it, but what are you doing about it? I think you should be doing something about it. I think your shareholder would like you to do more about it. The government looking for faith in the regulatory system, and you're a big part of that. So I'll start there. I may have others.
Sure, yeah. I think how I might characterize that question, and maybe I'll ask Phil to take that, is part of going through regulatory gates in order to get big projects approved also requires the regulators to coordinate if there is overlap. And so maybe you can talk a bit about the change in legislation that has just happened, supported by Safety Authority and the Oil and Gas Commission.
Sure. This is not working. All right. It's on. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so recently I think it's received royal assent, and the regulations will not take effect until, well, I think the date remains to be determined. But there is an amendment that was made to the Safety Standards Act and the Oil and Gas Activities Act, whereby there was a clarification of the overlap that the Safety Authority has with the Oil and Gas Commission for the oversight of oil and gas activities, and particularly also to clarify the requirements for LNG. So I think that's a positive development, and it's a clarification. So that's a lot of the work that we do. And I think in the build up to it, I think to your question of social license, it was very important for our shareholder, as you call them, the government, and also the various organizations in the oil and gas sector, that they have a great desire to do things the right way and to maintain their social license in their work. And so with the clarity in the regulations and requirements, they're better able to interact both with ourselves and the Oil and Gas Commission. And I believe that's a positive outcome that supports that.
Specific change had to do with process refrigeration being given to Oil and Gas Commission versus Safety Authority. So the clarity was there. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just on what we said there, social license. I mean, where does this come from now?
Social license is a bit of a euphemism that is being used to say are organizations who want to build large capital infrastructure, building up enough goodwill and negotiating well enough with the parties that would give them community approval, essentially, to put in projects.
Because really what we see today is stonewalling. A never-ending process of stopping when, for instance, in the last election, the NDP comes out and goes against Kinder Morgan's pipeline. And there's soundly trends in the election. So to me, right there, they lost the battle. And the people, when we got the mayor of Vancouver and Ottawa, said that absolutely nobody wants a pipeline. To me, it's a ridiculous statement.
It's amazing how close we are to the May 2017 election, and here it is June 2016. But yes, these are important issues, and the regulators have a role, I believe, in being very, very clear about what their mandate is. And Safety Authority's mandate is safe technical systems. And we will put in every requirement that is responsible towards protecting the public. Yes, sir.
Just a quick update. I know you guys implemented a new IT system to client-facing IT system where it's a self-help kind of an access. There were some challenges with the original rollout.
That's so polite of you to put it that way, yeah.
Any update on those systems, how they've been integrated, and what the feedback is from the marketplace on that?
Maybe Brian, do you want to speak to that? Yeah.
Sure. Well, I can speak to the first part, which is because I was there when we implemented the system, and so that was 3 years ago. So I can sit before you today and say that My Connections, that was the original portal that was put in, and it processes electrical and gas installation permits, declarations, and contractor license renewals. So in both electrical and gas for installation permits, My Connection is handling somewhere between 75 and 80% of all of that transactional work. And based on the last couple years of client satisfaction surveys, satisfaction is up year on year. It is not where we want it to be, and we have had challenges with My Connection. The product itself that we purchased, being able to expand it to include other technologies. And so what we're doing now is we are developing other portal transactions that sit side by side with the original My Connection, and one day all of that will be absorbed into a new portal that we will make sure has the proper client satisfaction before so we're out of the fire from where we were 3 years ago, and our mission is to continually improve it because people tell us that they want online access even beyond gas and electrical.
Did that answer your question, or do you want some more information? I'm happy to.
Talk about the
Net
transition
Promoter.
from installation permits,
Yeah.
users only, to operating permit holders.
Yeah, and I deferred to Brian because he has a history. I joined about 1.5 years ago. So as Brian said, My Connection, is being utilized, for gas and electrical installation primarily. We are building a new client portal that is just rolled out to asset owners. So previously asset owners were unable to access their operating permit information, see the inspection details, and make payments. And so we're targeting that user group. We're building a portal to serve them. We also anticipate that we will begin migrating functionality from My Connection into that new infrastructure. And that actually is something that works on your mobile device. It's being built in a very user-centric manner. So we're having user focus groups, we're getting their feedback. We're building it very iteratively. We're not trying to buy a vendor solution, plug the whole thing in. We're working step by step. We've also implemented something called the Net Promoter Score, which is a way that organizations measure how likely people are to recommend a certain product or service to other people, other similar clients. So we've implemented that. We're going to use that to really guide our development efforts to know whether it is being received and whether it is meeting needs, and to use that. So hopefully that helps you. Where we are investing a lot there. There's stuff coming. We will make it better.
So if I could add, if you are an FSR for an operating permit holder, your name is on an operating permit, or you are an asset owner here today, we would encourage you to go to our website and sign up to be able to access a view to look at all of your operating permits. And asset owners have just a few operating permits, and others have up to 3,000. If you are the FSR of record, then we would encourage you to encourage the asset owner to do that.
We are kind of in stealth mode at the moment.
Well, guess
But
what?
if you
We
are
just
very
opened it
interested,
up.
we will get you into that early user group, and we will make you very happy with that.
Any other questions from the audience? May I have a show of hands who is attending the electrical conference here today? Great, excellent. I think you have a very strong set of speakers. So oh, yes, sir. Thank you for saving me.
One comment, it's not so much a question, and that is, I know you've had this AGM here before, and I'm concerned you might do it again. And the reason I say that is that if when you have the AGM in the Lower Mainland, like this location, it's a mile away from the bus to the
Yes.
SkyTrain station, and the corporate head office is in New Westminster. I would ask you to consider, when it's the Lower Mainland, to have it somewhere that's a little less distant from New Westminster. So, it's a little more central, because it really, took 2 hours to get here, right?
Thank you for the feedback, and I think also you're reminding us that public transportation is an important element of how people are getting to events. So, yeah, thank you. That's very good feedback. Final question, and
Yes.
go ahead. Hi, Neil.
Is this on? Yeah. Thank you. I was interested in the information that you provided at the very start around the fatalities under the carbon monoxide poisoning, which is probably more than from other of the technologies, I would guess. Can you tell a bit about what's being done around that in terms of safety programs around carbon monoxide poisoning?
Absolutely, and before I do that, I'll just make a comment about that. A couple of years ago, one of our researchers did some statistical analysis, and there is about a 98% chance that at least 2 people will succumb to CO every year. And my personal worry about CO is it's one of those insidious injuries that presents as flu symptoms in emerge. And so there are a lot more people who are being exposed and we don't actually know about it. So maybe I'll ask both tech programs and operations and service excellence to talk about some of our campaign around Be in the Know on CO.
Yeah, it's multi-pronged approach, and indeed it is. Carbon monoxide poisoning is probably the #1 source of fatality as it relates to incidents and the technologies that we regulate, and it is pervasive. It comes from all different kinds of sources of gas, and we're finding it in homes as well as in commercial or industrial areas. So it is one that is widespread. I'll take a little bit at a national level, and then I can hand it over to you, Brian, on some of the different things that we're doing more from an education and media perspective. But I can say from a regulatory perspective that it is most certainly recognized as probably the #1 technical safety issue. I know that our sister organization in Ontario, the Technical Standards and Safety Authority, is mounting a major initiative around that, which we're going to join in on. I also know that what we're doing from a technical perspective is that we have renewed our incident investigation program, and we've done a very specific training and process for investigating carbon monoxide incidents to really get at all the potential root causes and contributing factors so that we can then circle that back into education and things of that nature. Yeah, so and then I guess there's a lot of educational stuff. I'll hand that over to Brian.
Thank you. So I'll talk about 2 things in particular. One is a regular send out to media, traditional media, through news stories, as well as we have a Twitter account, and so we will actually tweet messages around carbon monoxide in the seasons where people are more open to receiving the messages. So during the winter season and leading up to it. The other thing that we do is we have partners with the propane industry to place several thousand Be in the Know about CO tags on propane canisters that homeowners would purchase from gas stations, et cetera. And so that's right there in front of them when they have the tag, and that talks about how to properly store any fuel that might be that might lead to carbon monoxide poisoning, and so we've done that for the past few years. So those are a couple of examples.
I just feel compelled to also state that gas equipment is very safe. And what we're finding is that when there is situations of carbon monoxide poisoning, it is due to human factors. It's due to venting that hasn't been installed properly, or maybe not the right materials of venting, or just basically using appliances indoors, so lack of knowledge. So I think if we're giving any impression that gas appliances and the carbon monoxide they create is that there's a deep unsafeness, that's not the case. It's usually, it is most of the time human factor that's causing it.
So, going once, going twice. I would like to just mention that we are sticking around for most of the day. I would encourage, Chris and I had a great conversation this morning about operating permits. Anybody who wants to give us direct feedback one-on-one, please do that. And we have our business cards here too if you prefer to email in your comments. With that, then, I would like to hand the mic back to our board chair, Rich Valentine.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, I hope this morning's event has been informative to you and gives you a sense of the BC Safety Authority's purpose, our goals, and what we're doing to affect safety as an organization. And I'd like to thank you for attending today to listen to the message that we have to tell. This brings us to the end of our annual public meeting, and I guess the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Those of you who have a ticket in hand for our electrical conference, you can proceed to the Sapphire Room next door to us. And for any internal BCSA employees, we will meet here again at noon for our meet and greet. Thank you very much.